Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Josh Phegan Digital. It's the only place to track and keep yourself accountable by looking at all of the essential numbers, from buyer appointments, market appraisals and listing appointments, to listings, sales and income, and working in 45-minute sessions. You'll find it all on Josh Phegan Digital. Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alex, there's an interesting thing, a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown, and he spoke about the role in life is to edit. So you got to remove things rather than just keep on adding it, because if you keep on adding over time, then you kind of get like quite heavy. And I think that, you and I and Thomas in your team the other day, we had a quick chat about how do we even improve vendor reports and how do we make them better and faster and easier, but better for the vendor, as a part of that conversation, not just doing our job, but helping them to understand where they're at and what they need to do next. Why is it important for an agent to not just keep adding things to their daily list, but instead to start to edit and to prune things, like get rid of things, and so they just focus on doing the activities and that really lead to outcomes for both buyers and sellers and for their team?
Thanks, Josh. I think you can get really bogged down and overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If you're doing too much, and editing probably comes down to having a great team around you.
Yes.
And trimming back the stuff that maybe you don't like doing or that is non-dollar productive that can allow you to flourish and get more listings and more sales. So you still need to make sure that you obviously doing high levels of service too, because you can probably trim too much, and then you can do too, and then not enough as well. So I think it's understanding the layers of real estate, and what are the most important factors within those layers, and taking out stuff that isn't.
A great example of that, I think, is the Kerry Packer one, if you remember that, where he's in front of the Senate's estimate and he says, hey, before you put on another tax or add another law, why don't you just get rid of a tax and get rid of a law first? And that's that whole idea, is that you don't want to make things too complicated on the way through. Things are going to change for real estate agents in Australia. Obviously, AML, anti-money laundering stuff, is going to be coming in the 1st of July. As a part of that, you're going to have to educate a buyer a little bit more about, some questions you're going to need to ask them about how they got their funds and what they've done with their credit card, and tell me a little bit more about your passport and show me your ID and do all of those things. For you, you're going to look at that. That might be a reimagination of the process in the email that you write to a buyer before they go to make an offer. So here's a checklist on things I'm going to need to ask you so that when we're there at the appointment that they can smooth it out. So is that a chance to reinvent? Is it okay, if we're going to have to change it, let's just see what else we can actually remove before we go to add, to make sure that A, we're compliant, but we don't bruise the client all the way through, so that they know those questions are going to be asked before they're making an offer or bidding at an auction.
Definitely. I think it's, and then everyone's fully prepared about what's going to happen, and, you don't have any surprises.
Yeah. I think the conversation for you, even around the quality of your team, photo shoots, video shoots, floor plans, that's now starting to change a bit if an agent wants to be in a video shoot.
Yeah.
So maybe they might have to be there. But okay, great, we're going to add that back in. But you know what, I might not be at the photo shoot, but the vendor is going to be fully aware that they've got Prue or they've got Sydney or they've got someone else in your team, to be there if it's required.
Definitely.
Or if the vendor wants to be there. But also, too, you're looking at suppliers that can actually be client ready without you having to be there.
Exactly.
And so when you think about the edit process, are there any things that you go, geez, 5 years I was doing that, but I'm just not doing that today anymore because technology's got better? So for example, the email that comes in with what's been listed, what's been sold, what's at a price reduction might actually mean you don't have to go through and do all the research all the time, because you can just quickly look at that.
Exactly. The editing stuff, can speed up the whole process, and with using those digital platforms definitely allows you to do that.
So one of the things I did with some of the commercial guys is that I've actually got this little thing, the 3 reasons why you should buy this commercial property, because the 3 reasons why, just tell me straight away that it's got a national tenant, tell me straight away that it's got a 10-year lease, tell me straight away that it's got development potential, because you're trying to make me read it somewhere in the body copy, but just tell me the 3 reasons why this one. And that's what you're really good at when you're there at that open for inspection, is that ability just to ask the question and say, okay, great, what are their intentions? Know what they're doing today. Should you invite them to an open? Do you invite them to an auction? What do you do to make sure that you go to get that momentum? So before you go to add extra things into your diary, strip it out, get really clear about what really makes you useful. It doesn't have to be a 10-page vendor report if it can be done on 1 page, and start thinking about how you build for volume rather than being in a position that you're just doing what you're doing today and trying to scale that.